You have to be really the master of your own time, always trying to keep your head up and always learning and be passionate about what you do.
Hey everybody, Mark Arinsberg here with the Purenow Show. This is episode number 25. My guest today is David Luong. David is a cinematic digital matte painter. He worked for 15 years for Blizzard Entertainment on such games as World of Warcraft, and now he's working as core production senior artist at Imaginary Studios in Irvine, California. He's a very talented guy and has some really great stories to tell. Here we go. Hey, David.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for being on the Purenow Show. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us about your creative journey.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
So, you've recently made some moves. You were at Blizzard for a very long time.
Yeah, so I was at Blizzard for about 15 years, and there's just kind of like a lot of things that are happening there. I kind of felt the great resignation hitting myself too. So I was sort of thinking like how I could change things up, why I'm still here, and could I be doing something that's different, but also very fulfilling to me. And I came upon this opportunity of starting at a new startup, and I decided to just make the jump. I felt like it was the right time. I worked at Blizzard for a really long time, and I did really great things there, but I just wanted to try something fresh and new and exciting.
Okay, and how's that going thus far? That happened at the end of this past year, right?
December. Yeah, that happened December. I joined December 6th, 2021. So it's about 2 months now, and it's just a lot of like creative learning and just like collaborating with other artists who also have joined the company recently. We actually tripled in size since I've joined already.
Wow.
So I was number 11, and we are currently about 30 people already. We have 3 more people join today, which is pretty exciting. We're off to the race, and it's going to be a really cool thing. It's a long-term investment because the game won't be out for like 4 or 5 years at least. But the cinematic stuff we're going to be working on should be coming out sometime this year, and then we're going to be releasing like incremental cinematics next year, the year after. So it's going to be a nice balance of working on the cinematics and the game at the same time.
Well, you know, I think most people are familiar now with the gaming world. Blizzard Entertainment, of course, is one of the top studios in the world producing gaming content.
Yeah.
And VFX cinematic matte artists are not always the most recognized, although it is that work that you produce that really creates this engaging environment, these beautiful environments that people get to play with all over the world, all around the clock. And how does that feel to you, being an artist for a long time in this industry and contributing in the way that you have? You know, your work is so rich and deep and beautiful, and I cannot imagine how these games would even play out without someone like you who adds this other layer of emotional content that really adds such incredible value to the game, as much as even character development or the music or the gaming aspect itself. Everything is so critical to create this experience for the gamer, for the user.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that integration of what you do into this experience that pretty much, I don't know, it's got to be over 50% of the world is now engaged with at this point?
Yeah, I felt very fortunate. I mean, to be a part of this legacy, this company that had so many millions of people around the world playing the game. World of Warcraft had like 12 million, 13 million people at the peak, and they're still having so many more millions playing right now. There's other games like Overwatch, StarCraft, Diablo, Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone. There's just so many varied content that we produced over the years, and it's not just me, it's just a whole team of people. I mean, on our team for the cinematics, we had about 300 people, and that includes like writers, character artists, matte artists, 3D animation artists, effects artists, lighting artists. So many people create such amazing content, and we all pour our passion, all of our sweat and tears into this work, And we are just so happy that a lot of other people out there in the world enjoy this. And including myself, I play a lot of Blizzard games and I play a lot of games out there myself. And I'm also a huge gamer. So during the pandemic, it's really a great way to escape the tragedy, the disheartening things that are happening with COVID. It just kind of like gets your mind off things, and it really lets you enjoy things that are kind of like in a different world that speak to you. And a lot of these games out there, they speak to people differently, and they spoke to me in a way that like really relieves a lot of the pain that I endured during the pandemic. And I feel like other people out there in the world also feel the same, where they could escape all this craziness that's been happening. So yeah, I feel very fortunate, very lucky to be part of this all.
All right, let's get in the Wayback Machine, David, and
Sure.
find out how all this began. So there must have been, I mean, I know that you were enamored by certain movies like The Terminator and The Matrix, and had certain experiences early on in gaming that got you excited about this. Can you recall perhaps what that spark was, what that was very early in your childhood that put you on that path to where you are right now?
Yeah, I was the youngest child of 6 siblings. So there were 6 of us growing up in the 1980s, and my brothers and sisters would always have some kind of gaming entertainment system out there. They would have the Atari, or they'd have the NES, the Super NES after that, and arcade games. And so I grew up really loving games because they played it, and I always wanted to play it too. And it's just this experience of escaping where I was, because I grew up pretty poor. My family was I was the first generation from Vietnam. My parents immigrated there in the 1980s, and I was born here in 1981. And we didn't grow up very privileged at all. We didn't have very many things. We didn't have much money. And these games provided that escapism. And I really attached to that. And same thing with movies. Growing up movies, I really loved fantasy movies like The Neverending Story, where there's a lot of imagination out there to apply to certain things in life. And that really stuck with me, along with the amazing visual effects there done by Industrial Light and Magic back in the 1980s. They also did Star Wars back then. They did a whole bunch of other movies out there. And that pretty much gave me the spark, I would say. The combination of the old school 1980s games and the fantastical and science fiction movies of the 1980s really got me to where I am today.
How did you start acquiring the tools, the skills to begin to be able to do this work yourself?
In the 1990s, that's when my brother, again, inspired me to do things. He got a computer, one of the first personal computers at home. And even though they were very weak and not so powerful back then, it cost like $2,000 to $3,000. So we finally scrounged enough money in the family to get one of these. And I got into AOL, found out the internet, and kind of self-taught myself a lot of things. Started doing some HTML, getting into websites, graphic design, and then into high school, I started learning how to create a whole website for journalism class. So that was really fun. And it was all self-taught, going on the internet and just kind of looking at the resources there, what the community was talking about, how to create things, how to do HTML. And then from there, it was just so fun for me to be learning all this stuff on my own. And then afterwards, I went to college, but then I found myself trying to appease my family, my parents. Whereas like typical Asian families, they wanted me to become a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, just because they know that they make a lot of money and you're not going to make any money otherwise. And so they put me on this path of being a major in biology. And then I really liked music also, so I tried to minor in music. But then after 2 years of going to a local college nearby, I found myself disinterested and not really paying attention and not caring about any of the classes that I was taking. That's when I looked back to myself and this is not who I am. I don't want to become some biology person or getting into the field that I was not inspired to become. And I just kind of decided that I need to go back to my roots and combine my love of games and movies and make a career out of it. And I did a whole bunch of research and found a whole bunch of colleges out there that kind of teach this stuff online. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. Maybe this is what I need to take the next step and get out of this and become a professional at it. And so I landed at Academy of Art University up in San Francisco and took 4 years of computer animation classes and artistic foundation, and then graduated from there and then got into the industry right after that.